Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are reviewing the Unicorn, and yeah, spoiler alert, this is a good one. So let's go ahead and jump right into it and go over the features. We're going to take you guys out on the range, get you some range shots, and accuracy, precision, all that good stuff. Couple different distances. But yeah, let's go over the functionality and the features of the XYL blaster first. First off, I want to make sure everything's clear. The sight and the riser does not come with the blaster itself. Everything else that we'll talk about will come with it. This is just for our testing purposes, and before the review, I forgot to take it off. So anyway, so this is the blaster. Let's kind of go ahead and start in the front. And actually, before we do that, let's talk about the two configurations. So it comes with like a whack ton of parts, and if you missed the unboxing video, you can go back and check that out. I went over like how to install this stuff and kind of like this form factor, and then there's also like a top prime form factor where you get like a sliding like horizontal pump grip here. So one thing that you'll want to do is check that video out if you want to kind of configure it as I've got here. Otherwise, I'm not really going to show the other configuration just because this is how I plan to use it. But installation of that top prime shouldn't be difficult. You just won't install this top Picatinny rail. There's actually a grip that you'll install there, and you won't have this foregrip. So we're going to go over the bottom prime variation that I have. So we'll start off at the front. There is a little bit of protruding 16 millimeter barrel, which is great because that gives you an opportunity to attach your any type of muzzle or scar barrels, things like that, to the front of this. Super nice that they give you that option, and there's not like a proprietary like cover for it, which is great. Truly do appreciate it. Moving back, you have a iron sight, which corresponds with your back iron sight here. I believe in the unboxing I said these were all metal. I apologize, that's not true. This front one is actually plastic. This back one, however, is metal. So this whole front piece is plastic itself. Obviously metal barrel. Continuing on, you've got a forward kind of angled pump grip. Prime is actually pretty easy. It does have a return spring, which is great. The seal is not too bad. This is the full plunger tube. There's no slot in this one, so when we go over the numbers, everything like that, just so you know what it is. Also going from the front here, like I said, there's a return spring inside there. You can kind of see it through these decorative triangles, which is super cool. It's got 3 priming rods, which is great for rigidity. You kind of get that nice stiff feel. You don't feel like it's gonna like bend or break or anything like that. There is a little bit of wobble from left to right, which isn't too bad, isn't uncommon for kind of these pump style grips. You do under here have Picatinny rail, but I will warn you, I try to put a vertical grip from Worker on there, and I smashed my thumb into the magwell, so you will have to either get like an extension to move it forward or just stick with this pump grip. I, for one, didn't think I would enjoy this one, but it is really comfortable. It's lightweight, which is nice, and it feels almost very similar to like the Worker one. It's at an angle, but it's not at a aggressive angle, so I think I could live with it. It really kind of does fit with the aesthetic of the blaster itself, so I might let it slide for this one. Moving back, you do have like a partial top Picatinny rail, about 3.5 to 4 inches long, which isn't too bad. You can move your sight, adjust it front and back, and then you also have a little bit of extra room if you want to put a camera or a light, a flashlight or something on there. Not too shabby. Again, I have a riser on here to bring my sight off of the blaster a little bit. 2 reasons for that. One, if I have it shouldered, I can see down it. If it wasn't, I'd have to kind of raise it up just a little bit, and that's a little uncomfortable and not really my play style. The other reason I have this up is I usually put a camera on here. More on that in a future video. But yeah, that's kind of why I have mine on a riser, because I typically will put a camera mount here, so that way I'm not looking into the back of the camera. But anyway, continuing on, we do have our first interesting kind kind of takedown point here. So this blaster does come apart with 2 pins, no screws whatsoever. So you can pull this pin here and then this pin here, and they basically you have like a lower half and an upper half, and you get access to the spring, the plunger tube, the barrel system, all that good stuff. To release the spring and the barrel, you do have to take it apart just a little bit further. You've got a couple screws here and here. And I believe you also have to take off the pump as well. I'm not really 100% sure on that. We will dive into teardown in a future video for the upgrade video, and boy oh boy, you want to stick around for that one because I've got some fun stuff planned for this blaster, both in that video and kind of some conceptual stuff as well for what's going on back here. So let's continue on. Next up, you have your vertical grip, or excuse me, your vertical magwell here. Comes with one 15-round magazine. It's very Talon-esque. So it just slots in here. It does have a skinny pusher, so you don't have to have the blaster primed. It will load in just as it is. Your mag release is right here, and yes, it will gravity drop the included magazine, which is nice. It is not ambidextrous, so you'll be pushing it from the right side to the left, like that. Not too shabby. As far as mag compatibility goes, I've got some worker mags here. Let's go ahead and test these out. I've also got some, the Tryon, and then I've got, excuse the dog in the background, some Dart Zone. So worker Talons work just fine, feel good. They aren't going to come loose, nothing like that. Worker Talons do not gravity drop. I've got a 10-round worker magazine. Actually looks pretty good. I feel like this would be like a prime candidate for running this blaster because it's nice and compact. Not that the 15 round isn't pretty or anything like that, but you know, if you're trying to run that, you know, if you're trying to run that CQB style and you want to go a little bit further, 10 round magazines might just be where it's at. Let's see here. We've got Tryon magazine, fits really well, doesn't drop, does gravity drop, which is nice. And that might just be the added plastic at the bottom of the blast, or at the bottom of the magazine. They just weigh a little bit more. There's a little bit more heft to them. Dart Zone, this is the 12 rounder from the Dictator. It does not fit, and I think the culprit is the lips of the magazine are just too wide, and it just does not want to fit in there. So unfortunately, that's true for the Nexus Pro. Does not want to fit, even if you turn around, still does not fit. And then this is the banana mag from the Mark III. Again, just the lips are just too wide and don't want to fit in. So the geometry for the magwell looks like it's strictly Talon compatible. And then yeah, the proprietary one that they have, I guess I wouldn't call it proprietary. The included magazine is more Talon-esque, Talon-shaped. So it's unfortunate that if you are in like the Dart Zone ecosystem, if you're already that invested in these mags, you will have to purchase new mags. Luckily, you can get Talons for relatively inexpensive. You know, they're about, I think they're like $9 on Out of Darts, which is nice. I don't have their Tachi mag or their Coda mag, so I don't know if those are compatible or not. I'm sure somebody in comments down below will express that answer, hopefully in a kind and understanding way that not everybody has every type of magazine. So Talon compatible, that is a good sign. So moving on back here, like I said, we've got our mag release right here. We've got our full trigger right here, which has a little bit of play in it, and you can kind of feel when it's primed. You know, it's about right there, and then it's just a little bit further to get that trigger pull all the way. So you can feel it like kind of catch like right there. Then when you're about ready to fire, you can feel that catch release, which is nice. I would have liked to see a little bit more tighter kind of tolerance on the actual trigger system itself, but you know, it is what it is. It's still a very comfortable blaster, very comfortable trigger pull, which is nice. Next up, you have a grip here. Nothing too special except for the cutouts. It is 100% hollowed out. There's a couple different grip add-ons that you can put on the bottom here. I'm not going to go over all of the different configurations, but essentially you can remove this stock, and then you've got an in-strike attachment point down here that you could put on. The problem with that is it puts the stock down here, so you're like up like this, and yeah, it doesn't really fit my playstyle. But just know that those configurations are all there. We did talk about them quite a bit at length in the unboxing video, so definitely check that one out if you're interested in that. Moving back here, again, you have your back iron sights and the back pull pin here. Those are very tight, by the way, and I don't feel those are coming out. I don't think I would attach a sling point to this because that would definitely put some strain on it, and eventually that would pull, and not so good there. You do have your expandable stock, so this is all the way in. Now, when it's all the way in, it doesn't lock back, so it pulls forward, but it kind of runs into these little nubbins here, so it won't go forward enough to like lock into place. But you can pull it out. There's 2 additional points of lock. There's one there, so there's a medium one, and then you can push it again, and then it comes all the way out like that. Again, it's not like the best stock that I've seen, but with such a short like prime, and then it's got the spring return, so you don't have a lot of pressure, a lot of time on your shoulder with it. I feel like this is a good kind of setup. I'm probably going to run mine on this configuration, this setting, just because it's a little bit more compact. Kind of fits the playstyle just a little bit more. But yeah, that's kind of the way I'm going to run it. So yeah, so that's the stock. Again, you don't have back access point to the spring. You have to pull these two out, and that will get you access to the plunger tube, the spring, and things like that. But yeah, it's super tight, super compact blaster, and that's really kind of like about it. It's got a nice weight to it, so it doesn't feel like it's made of plastic when in fact majority of it is plastic. You do have a decent amount of metal parts as far as the trigger goes, the catch and all that stuff in there. There's a huge chunk of metal in there. You've got safety, so there's safe, and then there's off. This physically stops you from pulling the trigger, which is nice, and then up is ready to fire. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the overview. I mean, you literally, it's pump, shoot, and you're good to go. Again, like I said, it's got the skinny pusher in there, so you can load your blaster up when you've primed your last shot, and then you can stick a brand new mag in, so you've got 15 or a full magazine, and then 1 in the chamber. So again, super sleek looking blaster. I really like it. Alright, so the other thing that it comes with are 10 of these suction cup darts, which are kind of neat. And I wasn't really thinking that this would be a fun thing for me, or that I'd be interested in this, but after I loaded these up, you get 10 of them. After I loaded them up, I had a lot of fun plinking around the house. They actually aren't too bad. I don't know as far as accuracy is concerned, I didn't test them or anything like that, but they were a lot of fun to play with. And I still haven't found out where you can buy these from. I'm assuming XYL sells them like to retailers and stuff like that, but you can't buy them from them, unfortunately. So I think I'm down to like 8. There's like 2, maybe 3 of them floating around the house somewhere. But they're super fun, and it's like, man, I really wish I had more. I'm trying to find some alternatives, not necessarily this like material, but trying to find a good suction tip dart to kind of feed that newfound glory that suction darts are. But yeah, super fun blaster to play with and plink around the house. Let's go ahead and take it out on the range, get you guys some FPS readings, see how accurate it is. We're going to start at 30 feet and work our way from there. This is a CQB blaster. At heart, you could tell by the size, the length of the barrel, and how it's, the form factor. So we're going to start at 30 feet and then work our way backwards and just see how it goes. So let's go take a look. All right, so we are at 30 feet with the Unicorn stock. This is with the Worker Gen 3 Plus darts, aiming dead center. 20 shots. All right. Next up, we have Adventure Force Ember darts. 30 Next up we have the Dart Zone Ruby darts, 30 feet. Alright, and last up we have our Dart Zone Bamboo Darts 2.0, 30 feet. Alright guys, so we are back in from the range, and oh boy, there's a lot to talk about with this little thing. Let's go ahead and start off with our FPS results and kind of dive in from there. So this first slide is going to show you pretty much everything we've tested in the past. You know, you've got your Worker Gen 3, your AF Pro Embers, Dart Zone Rubies, and then Dart Zone Bamboo Darts. And the interesting thing is this thing is pretty damn consistent. Like, no matter what darts you're using, especially between the top three, Gen 3, Ember, and Ruby darts, all hitting 136 feet per second with a little bit of variation there on average. What's stunning to me is the standard deviation across all four darts is pretty on par. You know, 8.4, 8.3, and then 10.2 and 10.2. From top to bottom, that's some phenomenal results. Of course, the bamboo darts, they take the lead just as always when it comes to springers with the tighter barrel seal. It's something about that lighter dart and the ribbing, that the bambooing that the actual dart has, that it performs a little bit better as far as FPS results. I'm thinking it deals more with the actual weight of the dart. It's a little bit lighter than the other three. So that comes in at an average 146.7, and then a high of 163. The other three came in at 159 on high, 153 and 158 respectively. Again, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, like, as far as stock is concerned. Like, we did absolutely nothing. We didn't use any additional lube. We didn't change out the spring. It's the included barrel length, non-slotted plunger tube, and I'll tell you, I'm actually pretty impressed. Yes, it's hitting about the same as like a Nexus Pro, maybe a little bit hotter in some cases, but it's way more consistent. It's way condensed down, so your size, your profile is a lot tighter. It's closer to your body, you know, than like what a Nexus or like a Dictator or a Striker would be. Yes, this is quite a bit more expensive than any of those, but if you think about the different types of tooling and stuff like that that goes into this. So as always with any of our testing, whether that's out on the range or here in the office, you know, FPS readings, they're all done with 20 brand new darts. We make sure that we don't have any missed jams or anything like that. And I can happy to report with all four dart types, it didn't have any issues whatsoever. Everything shot out of this blaster absolutely perfectly. We didn't have any squibs or any jams or anything like that. So no matter what darts you choose, you're gonna have a great time with this blaster. So as far as like the results are concerned, my thing was consistency, 100% consistent. Like, that's the name of this blaster. Like, instead of unicorn, it should just say consistency, because your FPS readings are like just shockingly close. And while I was performing the test, it was one of those things where it's like, man, I've seen 136 a lot. Now, it might be like 136.4 or point something, but like 136 or 135 or 137, like, and I'm just like thinking to myself, like, man, this is odd. Like, usually you have some that go way high and you have some that go way low, and then the average kind of dials in. But what the standard deviation just proves is it's consistent. So awesome job there. Really one of the most consistent blasters I've seen in a long time. Moving on, let's go ahead and take out the range results here and see what we have. Starting at 30 feet, yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. So let's take a look at the slide. First up, we started at 30 feet. So these are the results for that. And again, this is all 100% stock. You want to make sure you take the percentage with a grain of salt. While we put on our own reticle red dot sight, we didn't zero it in or anything like that. We literally used it to center our shot and basically make sure that we have the red dot on the center every shot, all 4 dart types, every 20 shots. And that's really just for more consistency purposes. So when you look at this, when you look at these results, you more or less want to look at like the precision, how close the darts are to each other. Obviously, if they're a little bit low, you can raise up the sight a little bit and center that in. But you really, for what this slide is going to represent, precision is what you want. Accuracy is kind of like the icing on top of the cake. So looking at the results, the Ember darts, they did pretty good. I'm not going to complain too much about them. They had a decent spread inside of the 2-foot target, 100% accuracy, which is phenomenal. But I believe, in my honest opinion, I think the Worker Gen 3 darts had a better showing, even though one of the darts kind of flew just a little outside the target. I feel like the grouping is a little bit tighter, and they had a much better consistency as far as like the clusters go. Speaking of clusters, I think the bamboo darts had a pretty interesting finish. While they had a wider spread overall, there was a couple clusters of 4 or 5 shots that were like within inches of each other. And I think that kind of gives you a good representation of what the bamboo darts have to offer. But overall, the lighter weight might not be the best thing for this blaster. The ruby darts, I feel like they finished last. They had more darts off the sides, and just not a very good showing as far as like consistency is concerned. Now, and I guess the argument could be made that the bamboo darts finished, had a weaker finish because they had a few kind of outside, not outside the 2-foot radius, but outside, inside the 2-foot radius, but a few of them that are kind of on that edge. I would argue that having, 6 to 12 shots closer to the center is my preferred result. But again, you can kind of take it how you want, I'm just presenting the results to you. So yeah, I think the clear winner here, I believe, in my honest opinion, is probably the Worker Gen 3. Second, third, and fourth is kind of up in the air depending on what you're looking for as far as your results go. Obviously, if you're looking at accuracy, then the Ember darts are the way to go. Just good luck finding them in the grass. So next up, we backed it up and we went to 45, and I think this is really kind of where you start to see the kind of the shortcomings of this blaster. It's got a very short barrel, so it doesn't have a lot of time for the compressed air to push the dart forward in any type of accurate way once you start getting past that 30-35 foot range. So if you look down at our results here, the Ember darts kind of just went all over the place. They were falling short of our target, still in frame, but short of our target, and they were just horizontally just all over the place. And if you've heard any of my reviews before, you would rather have a tighter horizontal spread and a taller vertical spread if humanly possible. Most of our targets are thinner than they are taller, so having a wide spread when it comes to horizontally, you're less likely to hit your target. So AF Pros weren't the only ones that struggled at this range. The Worker Gen 3s, they arguably, came out on top when it comes to this distance, but it's still not good. You've got darts that fell off of the target. You've got one that came short of frame. With the ruby darts, they all were falling short. Well, not all. Most were falling short of the target, some falling off frame. And then bamboo darts were just all over the place. You've got some that were going over the target. You've got some that were falling out of frame. It's just 45 feet is not where this blaster in its stock configuration is going to benefit from. But the thing is, I don't think 45 feet, in my opinion, at least at my at my war down that I go, my club down in Cincinnati, I think 45 feet is a bit extensive when it comes to CQB. The field that we play at has like an internal center structure that has some rooms and hallways and stuff like that. And while everyone starts outside and they come towards each other, I think 45 feet might be just a little bit too far anyway for this type of blaster to be like even a good use case scenario. But once you get inside that structure, you can definitely switch this, and 35, 40 feet is definitely where you're going to be seeing, you know, your longest distance inside. Now, there is some benefit to being able to shoot from that inside structure outside onto the enemy territory. And I don't think that's where this is that's gonna benefit this blaster. I think this is strictly gonna be getting inside that structure and keeping, you know, the different rooms and the different corridors secure while your other team goes around the outside and kind of pins the other team outside into their territory. You keeping the center structure and the center kind of rooms secured. Obviously, that's gonna be different for everybody, but just know 30 feet, this thing is dead on. 35 feet, you might need to be a little bit more cautious. And then 40, 45 feet, you're kind of leaving it up to, leaving it up to the Nerf gods, so to speak. The other thing that you might want to do is putting on a muzzle. Give yourself a scar barrel or a bearing scar, something that puts some spin on the darts. During the upgrade video, we will definitely be doing that, so you'll be seeing some of those changes and some of those results when we do that. But this is definitely a prime candidate for that. You could probably tighten up some of these shots as far as the 45 distance goes, because clearly it's getting there. Like, there is no question about it. There's only a few darts that are falling short, and you add a scar on there, you might see a little bit of dip in your performance because of the lower FPS that a scar barrel or a bearing scar will put on a blaster. But nevertheless, you know, a tighter grouping, just a little bit lower. I mean, you just adjust your sight up just a little bit, and if you gain 10, 15 feet, you're solid. Time to talk about my final thoughts and where I really land on this blaster. As far as the darts are concerned, I'm thinking the Worker Gen 3 Plus darts are the ones where those are the ones you want to go with. I know Worker just released a slightly lighter version and a slightly heavier version. I honestly would consider getting the heavier one and seeing how your accuracy is with that. The lighter ones, you know, heck, who knows? Like the bamboo darts tend to fly all over the place when you get kind of out of the range of the blaster. They kind of, you know, whirly the bird out of the way. If you have any type of like environmental interference, like wind, crosswind can definitely take those off the charts. But the heavier ones, I'd be interested to see. I'm gonna have to order a set of those and kind of give you some comparison videos. But yeah, the Gen 3 Plus darts, you know, the average being 136. The high being 159, that's a good kind of starting point, especially at my local war. It's 200 feet per second, so this comes in right underneath that. And to be honest with you, shooting someone 30, 35 feet away at 200 feet per second really isn't what I'm all about. Yeah, you want to get the dart there as fast as possible because, you know, those milliseconds do count. But you don't want to hurt anybody. So in its stock configuration, I don't think it's a bad blaster. So don't feel like you have to buy the upgraded spring to, you know, get a few extra FPS out of it. In its stock form, it's phenomenal. Honestly, without even testing it, I would say save your $8 or $6, whatever the upgraded spring is, and put that money into a scar or a bearing scar. Tightening that group up will get you a better yield, in my opinion, than shooting a few FPS faster. The other thing that's beneficial about the Worker darts is the standard deviation being 8.4. That's ridiculously good. I'm sorry. I can't even think like of another blaster off the top of my head that we've reviewed on this channel that has that type of performance. I think the Outlaw, I'll have to go back, I can't remember. I think the Outlaw did have a similar standard deviation, but dang, are these blasters getting consistent. But I mean, it does come at a premium price, so it better shoot consistent, I guess. So let's talk about some of the things I like about this blaster. So first up, the exposed barrel. Absolutely love this. Being able to customize it with whatever scar or whatever bearing scar or muzzle piece that you want to put on here. Most of the stuff will fit since this is a 16 millimeter barrel and you've got about an inch, so maybe a little less exposed, but no proprietary muzzle here, so we don't have to worry about 3D printing something to expose the barrel or anything like that. Super nice to that. The top Picatinny rail was a nice add, even though it's not full length. I think with this blaster setup, I think that's a reasonable amount. You know, you've got enough sights, you know, put the sight on, maybe for a flashlight to hang off the side or whatever. But yeah, that's, you know, a welcome addition. The Springer turn, that is super nice. I really appreciate that, to the point where I'm looking for something for my try-on to kind of fit that same, you know, function. I've got the 3D printed parts, but I'm still looking for the spring. So yeah, that's something that I'm looking to add there, but absolutely love that. The expandable stock, this is a nice addition. I don't think having like a solid stock, you know, is a bad thing, but the fact that I can customize this to fit my, you know, my body type, and that, you know, someone like my, you know, 8-year-old son can use this to fit his body type. It's, you know, it's just a welcome improvement versus something that's just kind of mandatory. You have to have it this length and nothing else. Options are always a better thing. So the other thing that is really kind of second to none when it comes to this blaster is the durability. That's from everything from the plastic that is used to create the body of the blaster, the different, you know, internal metal workings, the metal pieces on the outside. You know, everything is super, super solid. You have a little bit of play here with your stock, which is, you know, come to be expected because you only have a single mounting point here. So that's really kind of what you're left up to. There's nothing up here to give it a little bit extra stability. But then again, you know, you're not really worried too much about that because your prime is not that bad, to the point where, you know, you could even run this just like this. Like, the prime doesn't require you to shoulder it. You know, it's an added benefit for like younger nerfers that might not have the arm strength to prime it. So having the ability to put it against your shoulder and your collarbone and, you know, really prime it down, that's something that, you know, for younger nerfers might be a big thing. But for the majority of people, the, you know, I think it's 14 plus, shouldn't have any problem priming that. And the return spring, again, is a welcome addition. So durability is phenomenal. And then the last but not least is just the sheer size of this thing. And I think if you look at my video for my unboxing, you can see like kind of my initial reaction to the size. You know, pulling it, getting it all together and pulling it out and shouldering it for the first time was like, wow, this is nice. It feels really good, and it's so compact where, you know, I can get my hand wrapped completely around the front blaster part here. You know, priming it isn't that difficult, and you've got a comfortability from right here. You get nice and tight tucked in. You can see down sights with the added red dot. Obviously, if you're looking for the, you know, the iron sights, you're going to be there's a little bit left to desire there, but the compact size really kind of speaks well to the style of play that you're going to be using this blaster for. So compact size, A+ in my book. Absolutely love it. So let's talk about some of the things I did not care for when it comes to this thing. And with all the customization that's available here, you know, from the muzzle, from the you know, the buttstock, the top Picatinny rail, you know, even the customization when it comes to, do you want a top prime or bottom prime, the one thing that I wish would have been, you know, considered was extending this barrel out maybe an inch, you know, to accommodate a customization when it comes to your front grip. You're just not going to be able to use a vertical grip with this blaster in this configuration, only because you're going to slam your thumb into this magwell. Trust me, I tried. That was the very first thing I did, was like, can I use my worker vertical? And no, you cannot. Unfortunately, that's not the case. You would be able to, though, take off these 2 bolts and the 2 bolts that hold the Picatinny rail to the slide. You can remove those and print your, extended Picatinny rail to give you a little bit more space, put your vertical grip more in line with the end of the barrel. That would be an option. I don't know what the stability would be like having a Picatinny rail out that far. I don't know, especially 3D printed. It might be, I don't know. We could try it. We'll see where it goes. But nevertheless, this vertical grip, or I guess slightly angled vertical grip, isn't all that bad. And it's actually kind of growing on me a little bit. Yes, it would have been nice to be able to use my worker one. I absolutely love that grip. But the fact that you can customize a lot of this blaster, and they basically said, nope, this is what you're going to get. You have to use this one. Otherwise, you're going to smash your thumb. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But they did make up for it with giving you a really comfortable grip to the point where it's like, you know what, maybe I don't even need to change the grip out. But just giving that extra point of customization would have been nice. The other thing that wasn't an include that I would have liked to see is like a sling mount. Somewhere on here, some type of sling mount at the, in the bottom of the barrel. They have the piece that kind of goes through here that you can put that pop bottle thing on. Having like a piece that has like a D-ring down to the bottom that you put that same piece through to mount, a sling mount. Or even like they machined this part right here, having like a nice kind of loop right here to give you some type of sling point. I feel like this is one of those blasters where, with it being CQB, rather than reloading it, switching to an offhand primary or whatever would have been nice, being able to drop this with both hands and not worry about it. I don't think I would run a sling on this on these D-rings, especially over time as they become looser and looser. I know there is a nice detent ball bearing right there that keeps that pin in place, but eventually this will become looser and it will not be able to hold the weight of the blaster, especially if you have any type of attachments on it. So be cautious of that. I think if I was going to run a sling, you could wrap something around the back here and put a sling point like that. That's a possibility. But I think the manufacturer kind of missed a step. They should have put something in here to give us that option. Those are the 2 complaints. The other thing that I wanted to mention too, not really a complaint or dislike, but if you saw my unboxing video, you noticed that we had a issue right out of the box. And that was the prime return wasn't sending the slide all the way forward to where the trigger would activate. Basically, you'd pull the trigger and the front grip would kind of go back like a couple centimeters or whatever. We did diagnose that issue, and it seems to be a one-off type of thing. I scoured the internet, Discord, Out of Darts reviews, Google. I even went as far as going into Reddit, diving deep into the Unicorn reviews and comments and posts. I couldn't find anything about that issue. My particular issue with it was pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Essentially, you're just removing these 2 screws and then the 2 screws like I talked about holding the Picatinny rail on. That will reveal like kind of like a black stock piece that the Picatinny mounts to in between the orange slide. The kind of the gist of the issue was there was a piece of plastic flashing that was on that black piece that somehow made it through the manufacturing process, and it was just enough to keep the prime from going all the way forward. And we're talking like 0.5 millimeter. So I was able to basically take those 4 screws out, pull the prime back just enough to see that, and I just took like an X-Acto blade, just kind of scraped it off. And you could get this with a pair of tweezers. You don't have to take the blaster completely apart. It was super easy. And once I removed that piece of flashing, it fires every time. I haven't had that issue ever since. So if you do open yours up and you have that issue where you prime it, let go, and it goes forward, and you can't actually fire it without pushing, I mean, even putting a finger on the front grip would allow me to fire it. It's that tolerant. Super easy to fix. And again, I would only mention this as like in this particular case because the blaster comes apart, right? So like you're basically putting this blaster together, And if you can do that, you can do this fix. But yeah, I just wanted to definitely put it out there. I'd be remiss if I didn't include that in my review at all. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I know I've mentioned it. Check out the unboxing video here. Lots of good information there. I do assemble a blaster, so you can see that there. So it's not only unboxing, but it's also assembly. If you're interested in other videos, we've got a couple reviews up here. You can check those out. But thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the upgrade video. It's going to be a good one. We'll see you guys in the next video.